Alrighty then. Thank you for joining this live stream session. This is going to be a live Q&A where I answer all your concerns and questions regarding everything that is going on right now currently with YouTube and the censoring of my channel. I'm going to have two Q&As. The first one is going to be in English and the second one is going to be in Spanish. And well, before we get started, and once in the meantime that people start logging on to this live stream, I want to give you guys a little bit of context. My name is Hector Martinez. I've been a content creator on YouTube since late 2016. The reason that I started this channel was because in 2014 I had a life-changing experience that really redefined the way that I interacted with my body. This was during a World Naked Bike ride that took place in my hometown in Guadalajara. And at first this was something I had never imagined I would be doing, but the experience was so life-changing that I had to share it. And eventually I decided to start my own community. At one point in time in the community, we were struggling because we wanted to have a landed club, but we didn't have enough resources to do so. So we started a crowdfunding campaign. And despite the fact that we weren't able to raise the money that we needed for that, we were able to raise enough money to buy equipment that we would later use to promote naturism in social media and particularly on YouTube. And well, this provided me the opportunity of sharing something that I had never imagined that I would fall in love with other people, with the potential of possibly inspiring them to have a better relationship with their body and to break through all this nonsense that they've educated us to believe, that the body is only an object for sexual gratification and everything that has to do with nudity is erotic or sexual in nature. And this is something that we have been really fighting against, this idea, but it's really hard to change this perception of society, especially when we are censored on a day-to-day basis on all these mainstream social media platforms. This isn't something new. It has been going on for a couple of years. And at first, everyone was, they had the idea of just leaving it alone and moving on to other platforms. But as time went by, more and more platforms started becoming more and more strict when it came to nudity. And it's funny because most of these platforms have exceptions where they allow nudity. In YouTube's case, they allow it under the exception of documentary, educational, medical, and artistic purposes. But their AI and everything that they use to identify this nudity is pretty flawed. They don't really do a good job because they constantly flag a lot of things that are not for sexual gratification. The intent of us as our community is to shine the light and to create conscience around the hypersexualization of the human body and the damage and harm it has caused psychologically and as a society. So it's really hard to change this perception when we're systematically shut down from all these platforms and we can't really tap into the mainstream because we don't really have any alternatives of where people can interact with our ideas. So it's really hard for us as a community to express ourselves and to change this point of view. So I think the situation is far greater than just my channel because this is something that has systematically affected us as our community. And I want to use this situation as an excuse to start something of an organized nature. We need to get together as a community and we need to raise our voice against censorship. My channel being terminated is only an excuse to do this. And the good thing that, that happened out of all of this is that my channel was so big. It had 1.3 million subscribers and it was pretty well known within the naturist community. And this could possibly be something that inspires them to raise their voice. You guys aren't on your own on this. We are in this together as a community, and it's our time to start a discussion with society and to redefine the way that they perceive the human body. We need to do something about this. What can we do? Well, we need to raise awareness, and the first thing we can do is to share and sign the petition that I've started in change.org. I didn't include it right now in the description of the video, but once I finish this live stream, I'm going to include all the links in the description. So if you guys want to sign and share that petition, you can definitely do so. The next thing that we can do is get in contact with all the newspapers and mainstream media. We need to spam the hell out of them in order for them to understand that this is a potentially pretty big story that they might be interested in covering. And if we manage them to cover this story, then we'll have an advantage, and more people will understand or learn what is going on. The next thing that we can do is we can reach out to all naturist organizations out there, federations, clubs, resorts, influencers, everybody that stands for nudism, naturism, or recreational nudity. Doesn't matter what label you identify under, we are all under the same boat. Get in contact with these people, spam the hell out of them so they can understand what is going on and the importance of this opportunity. And we need to get together as a community, as a whole. We need to do something that is coordinated and organized. That way it's going to be much more difficult for them to simply mute us by eliminating a channel, a creator on whatever platform you guys want. So this is also an invitation to all those leaders that are listening right now. I think that this is a great opportunity. If you guys could DM me on Twitter, I'm mainly on Twitter. You can find me at @_Hector_MTZ. I'm also going to include that in the description of this video. And well, that's the introduction to this Q&A. I'm very interested in reading what your questions are regarding this situation. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time to leave it in the live chat. I don't know how this live chat thing works. Every time I have a live stream session, I don't know why I lose some of these comments. So I think that if you guys can also comment them on the video so other people can see them. If not, I'm going to be reading them right now, and I'm going to be answering the questions as you guys ask them on the live stream. Let's see here. Please upload nudist mini video pass here long down chart. Okay, well, we don't really have questions. A todos nuestros videntes en español, les quiero comunicar que a las 4 p.m. voy a tener una transmisión en vivo en español. Sería en un par de horas. Ahorita esta transmisión en vivo es en inglés, donde estaré respondiendo sus preguntas, y pasaré a hacer lo mismo en español. Entonces nos vemos un poquito más tarde. So a couple of questions that people had regarding my content and my status on YouTube. The first thing you guys need to know is that despite the fact that YouTube allowed me a couple of years on their platform, I never received any type of preference. I understood how their community guidelines worked, and I understood how the algorithm classified videos under these categories. It was documentary and educational. My channel constantly fell under these categories because, one, it was educational in nature because I aimed to change the perception of society, hence educate society to see the human body as something normal. The other thing is it's documentary in nature because I was documenting through the past few years how naturism was growing and developing in Mexico. And this platform didn't only contain my experience, it contained the experience of tens, maybe hundreds of different naturists. I covered different events, I went to different places. So I tried to provide a very wholesome representation of what naturism or nudism was in Mexico. I also had the opportunity of traveling to the US during the time I had this channel, and I was able to create a couple of videos of that. But I wanted to mention this because a lot of people thought or commented that I probably had some kind of deal or some kind of exception with YouTube. That's not the case. They would constantly flag my videos, and I would constantly appeal them and explain to them why they met their community guidelines. And every time a human, which I'm not really sure if a human ever reviewed my videos, but every time they reviewed the videos, they would clearly see that they were not intended for sexual gratification, and they would return those videos. That was a pretty common practice. The last time that this happened to me was with an interview. I don't know why YouTube had a special problem when I was interviewing people nude on my couch. I don't know if an interview is more sexually gratifying than events or other things that I shared on this platform, on this video, on this channel. And that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back, because they removed that video. I appealed it, they returned it, then they removed it again. I appealed it again, they returned it, and then they banned my channel. So they were saying that there were several strikes or a lot of violations of their community standards, which was crap. It's BS, because I never had any strikes. I didn't have any strikes because I would appeal each time that they would take down the video. So they never actually gave me a strike for my videos. The other thing is, I'm not sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this, but content creators on YouTube are not, naturist content creators on YouTube are not allowed to monetize their videos. YouTube is an extremely strict company when it comes to monetization, and anything that could be deemed of unfamily friendly worthy status eliminates completely the possibility of monetizing. And as you guys probably know, creating this content, the equipment, the tools, the software, the computer, everything that I use in order to produce them is really expensive. That plus the time intensity that it takes, the skill and the time it took me to learn, and everything that goes into producing these videos makes video production very, very expensive. So the only way that we as naturist content creators can make a living and survive and not starve to death is through the support of others. And I've been able to be here for so long because I have a wonderful community in Patreon that have supported me over this time. And because of their donations, I've been able to do this. The other thing is that the fact that I live in Mexico and the cost of living here is way cheaper compared to the cost of living in the US or in other countries. With the conversion of dollars, because the donations are in dollars, I'm able to survive. But I also live in a house with other roommates, and I have to share a lot of things in order for me to get by financially. So it's not really that we're in it for the money. In the long run, I do have the hope that we can create an industry around naturism that can be economically sustainable, but it's not. It's definitely not. So I wanted to address this because there was a lot of people that thought that it was outrageous that naturists could monetize their content, which they can't. And I also wanted to address this so people could understand that I never received any type of preferential treatment through YouTube. I was just able to understand their community guidelines and how they enforce them, and that allowed me to be on the platform for such a long time. I'm starting to see a little bit more comments here, which is great, so I'm going to start reading them. There's a couple of messages in Spanish, as I mentioned before. I'm going to be having another live stream session at 4 in Spanish where I'm going to address their concerns. I'm going to let them know this quickly, and then I'll continue reading the messages. Para todos los que están viendo este video en español, me gustaría informarles que a las 4 p.m., o sea, en un par de horas, tengo una transmisión en vivo en español donde estaré explicando y contestando todas sus preguntas. Agradezco mucho que me hagan llegar sus dudas, pero en este momento voy a estar respondiendo solamente en inglés y a las 4 continúo con esta transmisión en vivo, pero en español. So, people say, I love your channel and support your thinking, good content, learn many things. Awesome. Have you also considered reaching out to American Civil Liberties Union or some international equivalent? Right now, we're contemplating every possibility. Anyone who is interested in supporting is welcome, and we are also going to reach out to them. We also want to reach out to newspaper outlets. We want to reach out to naturist organizations and American Civil Liberties or any other institution that fights for the rights of free expression. We also are taking them into consideration. If you guys know anybody within these categories that you guys can reach out to and share with them what is going on, the petition and everything, that would greatly help. Sometimes I have a lot of people that can help me, but at other times I'm a one-man team. So if you guys can help me out, that would be of great support. Though YouTube is an American company, it has an international community base. How does it work that an American company gets to define the boundaries of obscenity for all countries and culture? I was reading a comment of someone on Twitter that said that this was a form of tech imperialism, and it's definitely a form of them imposing their moral view on the world, which is very frightening. We are supposedly in an era of progressive, politically correct thinking, but then again, the way that some of these platforms that consider themselves to be progressive and in pro of human rights are imposing their morality over the world is really frightening and scary. So I don't understand where the cultural sensibility comes from if they believe that the American values, and not specifically American values, but more of a very conservative, small community in the States value can be applied to the rest of the world. It's pretty frightening, pretty shocking, and I think it's something that we need to address and do something about. This definitely has to change. It sounds like they're overstepping their boundaries. I would sure be interested to know what their answer to that would be. I would too. That's why I think it's important to sign the petition, and also if you guys could send out messages through Twitter, tag YouTube or Susan, that is the CEO of the company, that would also be of great help. The more noise we can make, the more likely that we are able to bring awareness to this situation. Jeffrey says, freedom of speech, my foot. Yeah, sadly, freedom of speech is only something that exists when it comes to making speeches, but it's not really something that exists in the real world. Other questions that people have asked me, why don't I go to another platform such as Vimeo or other? I think I've already addressed it in this live stream, I'm not sure, but I just want to mention that as a backup, I think it's a good idea, but I don't think that conforming to the idea of being systematically shut off all the platforms is a good idea, because eventually when Vimeo or other platforms get big enough, they're going to want to get rid of us as well. So what we need to do is we need to educate society for them to understand why there's nothing wrong with the human body. And we can do this at the same time, but we need to start at some point in time. And I think right now is an excellent opportunity to do so. The other thing that I want to mention here is, let's see. I think I've addressed pretty much most of the things that people have been asking. I'm going to take a look right now at Twitter to see if I have any questions. Probably I'll have some questions on Facebook and other things. I'm not very good at navigating through technology and speaking at the same time. I get easily distracted. But if you guys have any questions or anything, I also want to take advantage of the situation to let you guys know that on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Irish time, that would be 1:30 p.m. Mexico time, I'm going to be on a Zoom call with the Irish Federation, where I'm going to be talking about my path through YouTube as a creator and everything that is going on right now. So if you guys are interested in participating, I'm going to be sharing that on Twitter. Please follow me on Twitter. I'm more active there than I am on other platforms. I'm going to read out my username again. Funny story, Twitter has actually eliminated 2 of my previous accounts for promoting naturism. And it's funny because you can find all sorts of stuff on Twitter. So I'm very confused into the reason why they decided to censor me, but you know. My Twitter is @_Hector_MTZ. I'm going to be sharing this information in the description of this video. And let's see, what else do I have here? Hey man, YouTube can't follow their own guidelines, unfortunately. That's what probably pisses many off. I think as a community, it would be very important to have clarity when it comes to their community guidelines, how they work, and how we can navigate through them. We need to have the confidence or the security that if we respect these community guidelines, we aren't going to be taken down, and we have the opportunity to share our point of view with the world. Until YouTube addresses this directly, and all other mainstream social media platforms address this directly, we are going to be in the dark on this. We're going to be navigating without being able to see what is in violation of their community standards or not, because YouTube has the exception of documentary, educational, medical, and artistic, but it's funny how when you respect these guidelines, you still get banned because they can't tell the difference between something that is sexually gratifying in nature and something that has to do with normalizing the human body. So I agree. Most of what they do is under AI. There's so much content that is uploaded to YouTube on a day-to-day basis that it's impossible for a human to review all of it. So they rely very heavily on AI. And I think more to the point that they're willing to admit, because people feel more secure when an actual human being reviews their content. But I'm really starting to doubt that that's the case. And this AI thing, I think they have a really hard time explaining how it works, because they don't even know how it works, because it's self-learning program that has been developing itself over time. And I don't know how they program this thing. I don't know how it works, but they definitely need to tweak it so it understands the difference between natural, everyday nudity and something that is erotic in nature. So if you guys have any more questions, please leave them in the comments of this live stream. I'm going to be online for just a couple more minutes before I disconnect. And for all of those who speak Spanish, I'm going to have another live stream session like this at 4 p.m. Mexico City time, which is about an hour and a half from now. So Drake says, YouTube is the antithesis of clarity, but hopefully they can change that. Someday, soon, preferably. I hope this is an opportunity. I don't want to victimize myself and say that YouTube is, a terrible company that is, censoring us. They definitely are censoring us, but YouTube has been a great platform for us to share our points of view. One of the things that YouTube has for it is the algorithm. The algorithm is very, very good at getting the content out there to a lot of people that could potentially be interested in this. And I understand their concern and I understand their confusion when it comes to naturism, because if you're not a naturist and if you've never really taken the time to understand the toxic relationship that we have with our body, you can definitely see it as something dangerous that could damage or affect or traumatize people. But as soon as you start analyzing this negative education that we received since we were very young, the more you understand how the contrary effect is taking place. As I mentioned before, when you censor something, you're reinforcing the idea of it. So in other words, YouTube is trying to protect its community, according to what they say are their guidelines, from nudity, and that's why they censor it. But when they do this, they are contributing to the idea that nudity can only be seen through the eyes of sexual gratification or pornography, because pornography has its own platforms. They have Pornhub and many other websites where people can consume porn. So porn is definitely not out of reach of people. And every time that we see nudity on media or advertisement or series, movies, content, whatever, it's always hypersexualized and it's always unreal. It has, and this perpetrates the idea of unrealistic beauty standards. But what it also does is that there is no middle ground. There is no place where people can share and express unhypersexualized human bodies, a natural representation of what the human body truly is. And since there is no middle ground, people can either think that things are completely sexual in nature or, but they can never see this as something that is normal and natural, because there's no place where we can express this. So you're not really protecting anybody from, the idea that of sex, of the sexualization of the body, because people have a very easy access to that, and you're not giving us the opportunity of sharing a different point of view. And that is what upsets me, and that's why I feel that when they censor us, the only thing that they accomplish is to reinforce this negative perception towards the human body. So I don't understand where the protection comes from, because you guys are not solving the problem. You're becoming part of it. You're protecting this medieval idea that there's something wrong with the human body. How can we consider ourselves to be so progressive as a society when we can't even make peace with the most basic and essential part of our existence, our body? So this is something that we have to bring up. This is something that we have to talk about. We need to start a discussion, because if we don't, no one else will. And we're going to be condemned to see the world fall into this rabbit hole where there's always something wrong with the human body. Let's see, freedom of speech, my foot. Hey man, YouTube can't follow their own. I'm sorry, I'm rereading the same messages. YouTube, let's see. Hector, disculpa, no hablo inglés. So I'm going to address the Spanish speakers on this live stream once again, so they know that I'm going to have a live stream session in a while. A todos los que me están viendo en español, les comento que a las 4 voy a tener una transmisión en vivo en español donde estaré respondiendo todas estas preguntas. Quise, por la diferencia de horarios, hacer una transmisión en vivo en inglés primero, para que todo el mundo de habla inglesa esté enterado de lo que está sucediendo, pero a las 4 del PM de tiempo de Ciudad de México, o sea, en 1 hora y media, voy a iniciar una segunda transmisión en vivo, pero esta será en español. So it says, if language at work, or my good friend Björn mentions, if YouTube offered a compromise, and as far as they say you can have your channel back as long as you pixel people's bits, would you consider that compromise? At first when I started my channel, I would self-censor it because I wanted the message to get out. And this was something that caused a lot of problems with me mentally, because in a way I wanted to promote a body positive image, but on the contrary, I was self-censoring my body because it wasn't appropriate for people to see. So it's a really hard question to answer. My first thought is no, I'm not willing to compromise that again. But the other thing is, I really am interested in starting this discussion, and I feel that YouTube and Facebook and all these other platforms are very important when it comes to tapping into the people that don't understand our community yet. Because what we're doing when we're creating content in platforms where we're welcome is we're creating echo chambers. And these echo chambers allow us to express ourselves within our community, but they don't allow us to expand and grow as a community, because we are not allowed to share our ideas or our views on the world, in this case on the body, with other people who are not familiar with this. And this is something that I lived personally. I had no idea naturist or nudism or social nudity existed until I found a manifestation or something that took place in my city. If I would have never found this, I probably would have never become a nudist, and I probably would have never promoted this. So for me, it's very important for us to get the message out there where people are not expecting it. Why? Because it's the only way that more people can learn of our existence, and it's a way that more people can question the relationship that we have with our body. So it's a tough question to answer. I would probably say yes and no. Maybe a solution would be to create a platform where we as a community can create content and express ourselves freely, but we also need to have strategies on non-nude friendly platforms that allow us to expand and communicate and share this point of view with the rest of the world. Let's see. Most of these comments are in Spanish. It's funny because when I do the live stream, when I'm going to have my session in English, I'm pretty sure a lot of the comments are going to be in English. So I'm probably going to have to copy some of these messages and read them in my next session. All right, guys. So what's next? As I mentioned before, right now, we need to get the message out. We need to sign the petition. We need to share it. I'm going to leave the links to all this in the description of this video. We need to get in contact with news outlets, with media. If you guys know anyone, if you follow anyone on Twitter or anywhere, get in contact with them. Spam the hell out of them. We need to get in contact with naturist leaders and naturist organizations in order to start an organized movement, a common front. If they don't understand the importance of being able to freely express ourselves, we're in danger. If our community can't back something like this up, we're probably condemned to remain an outlawed community, which I believe is really sad. And I hope that's not the case. So reach out to your naturist leaders, your naturist organizations. Let them know what's going on. Pressure them into doing something, into addressing the situation. And we need to get organized as a movement so we can start doing something. We need to have a coordinated strategy. This has to be something far more bigger than just me losing my channel and being upset and making a fuss about it online. This needs to become something that we can all support as a community in order for us to actually be able to make a difference. Björn mentions, I personally would say a podcast would be better than pixeling. Just in my own point of view, I agree. A podcast is a great idea. We need more content creators. We can't rely on one sole content creator to be on all the outlets. And the thing is, there is already a couple of really great podcasts. I want to give a shout out to the Naturist Living Show. That was the podcast that inspired me to become a naturist leader. If it wasn't because of that podcast that Stefan created, I would have never learned what this was, and I would have never known that I can promote this actively. The other podcasts, I think Just Naked has a podcast. I'm not familiar with many. If you guys know any, please link them in the comments of this video so I could check them out. I wouldn't mind being on any of these podcasts if anyone wants to interview me. If any news, Naked News, or any website or whatever that promotes naturism is interested, please reach out. As I mentioned before, I'm going to leave my Twitter on the description of this video so you guys could contact me directly. I'm very interested in helping and just doing something. I don't intend to stop creating content. YouTube is not going to get rid of me so easily. Maybe as a platform, I could probably explore other alternatives in the meantime that this gets resolved, but I do intend to continue to do something about this and not just, feel sorry about myself and get over it and continue on. I am going to continue creating content. You guys can follow me on Twitter, anyone that is interested in following that. If you guys are interested in supporting this, as I mentioned earlier during this live stream, the only reason or the only way that I've been able to do this on a constant basis and dedicate full time to it is through the support of Patreon. So if you guys are interested, you guys can definitely become a Patreon and support this cause. And if you guys know any other content creators and you guys are interested in helping them out and you have the possibility of doing so, please do, because it's really, really hard for us as creators to survive because we can't monetize our content because it's not deemed to be family friendly. And we're constantly censored and eliminated from all the platforms that exist. So it's also very hard to get our work out there. So if you guys have the opportunity of supporting financially, that is greatly appreciated. If you guys can share or just talk about this, you don't have to do that much. Just click like, click share, and that itself can go a very long way. So, let's see, the last message. Do you feel most of the issue comes from seeing the penis itself? I know that many YouTube video channels where women are topless, and it seems less offensive or sexual because they have and then it continues on. I don't think it's a matter of being able to see the penis, because there was a really important channel on YouTube that was called Topless Topics. Shout out to Cleo for doing this for such a long time, where she wanted to normalize the female breast, a little bit of what Free the Nipple wants to do, or body positivity and gender equally, or I'm not sure what the term is. I'm sorry. English is not my first language. But Cleo was doing a great job normalizing women's breasts, and she was eliminated from YouTube, and her videos were systematically flagged, and she had a really, really hard time. She went through this way before I went through this. And it's not that they allow certain exceptions. It's just probably that the algorithm hasn't, or the AI hasn't identified them yet. But eventually, even those channels are going to be taken down. And I don't think that this is a matter of someone actually reporting. Another thing I wanted to mention, I don't think that this is a matter of people actually reporting the videos, because I'm sure I have over 200 million views. I received maybe even millions of reports. So it's not a matter of how many people report a situation. It's probably a matter of luck, whether you're fortunate or not, in order for the algorithm to identify, or the AI, I keep confusing them, to identify what you're doing and to deem it to be unworthy for their platform. And even those content creators that exist right now on YouTube, if they don't do something about this, I'm sorry to say that they are probably going to be taken down very soon. Because as time goes by, censorship is escalating and it's getting worse and worse, despite the fact that there's been movements like the one that Spencer Tunick did with the artists that wanted to get the attention of these mainstream social media platforms for them to understand the artistic use of nudity. And it's a shame, it's very sad that the nudist organizations didn't have a saying in this. This was a lost opportunity that we had. We could have been part of that movement, but I don't understand why some of the older leaders of these organizations that grew up in another era where they didn't use social media don't see the importance of being able to communicate through digital format. And I hope that they can understand this, or I hope that the new generations that come along could understand this. But this is going to be the big battle of naturism in modern history. Before, we would do manifestations, we would fight for beaches and things like that. And that's something that's great that we can still continue to do. But if we don't have the ability to freely express ourselves on social media, we're not going to get very far, because the world is evolving and we are not catching up with it. We're actually always running behind it. And this means we're probably going to be condemned to be a niche, underground, forgotten community. And I think that if we do something about this, we can definitely change it. So, Will, thank you for joining us. I also want to give a shout out before I read Will's comment to Arturo Gutierrez, Secretary of the Mexican Naturist or Nudist Federation that I'm currently president of. He's secretary. He helped me out with the speech that I did, with the video, and with also the petition. Also, I want to give a shout out to Byrne. He also helped me correct it. I want to give a shout out to Will Forrest for his support and inspiration, to Stefan Deschines, to Nick and Linz from Naked Wonderings, to Cleo from Topless Topics, and many, many other content creators, leaders that have supported me and that have helped me be able to make enough noise and also know what to do. Because I don't feel like this is my petition. I feel like this is our petition that represents us as a community, because this is a problem that we all face on a day-to-day basis. So Will says, I like the idea of appealing to YouTube's sense of responsibility to support body acceptance, but I also think we shouldn't assume YouTube cares about body acceptance one way or the other. I agree with that. It's sad, but I mean, I hope I can explain this, but we give these big platforms a lot of, we give them a hard time because they always prioritize making money over doing what's right. I understand that they work as a business, and I also understand that being business oriented is something that is very important. I think as a community, we haven't been able to grow or build a sustainable community because we've ignored the importance of creating value through business, making money. Making money is very important. One, we need resources in order to do things, in order to promote ourselves, in order to create content, in order to fight for more beaches, in order to open more venues or places where people can enjoy recreational nudity. And we also need to have money to pay for teams. We need people to dedicate more time to what we're doing, and the only way that they could do it is if they can survive off of it. Right now we rely far too much on volunteering, and it's great, it's really nice. I respect and admire people that have been doing this out of pure love for all these years, but that makes it something that only privileged people can do. Only privileged people today can promote naturism, including myself, and that's something that has to change. We have to create a system that allows anyone who is interested in promoting this lifestyle to be able to do it. And the only way we can accomplish that is if we make naturism a successful, sustainable financial business model. A lot of different movements have been able to make a change in society because they understood the value of being able to make money. And I think I hope I don't upset anybody. I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but I think the LGBTQ community understood the importance of this, and through a lot of strategies, they've been able to build a sustainable business model that allows them to have resources to lobby, to promote, to create new places, and to expand as a community. And I feel that naturism has to do that. For so many years, we've been against monetizing naturism. I understand, and I think it's valuable to have alternatives, but I also feel that there should be a more of a positive attitude when it comes to supporting naturist businesses. The more businesses we support, the more people with resources that we have on our side that can help us expand and grow. And at the same time, we can use these resources to create places where people don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money, which could be a public beach or public places where we can enjoy recreational nudity. But if we don't have resources, we're never going to get there. So that's my view on it. Will says they probably don't care about anything other than money. Maybe they have advertisers who threaten to pull their ads if YouTube allows nudity. I wouldn't doubt it. There's definitely a lot of Puritan companies behind the advertisement, but I also feel, as I was mentioning before, if we had enough naturist business companies, then we would have the ability of pressuring platforms in order to creating a place where these businesses could promote their business. And if we had businesses, naturist businesses, they would support naturist content creators through collaborations, through I don't remember the word, I'm sorry, English is not my first language, sponsorships, through different ways of interacting. The more money we have, the more resources, the more we could share it amongst each other, and the more we can expand and grow as a whole. And the more we can pressure communities or platforms like Facebook, like Twitter, like YouTube, or like whatever platform that exists into understanding the value of our business as a community. What I wanted to do with my channel is I wanted to search different places in Mexico. I wanted to go to beaches that were struggling with tourism, and I wanted to show them the importance of allowing nudity in their locations. A little bit of the example of what happened in Cipolite with the Cipolite Festival. And my idea was that if they saw that naturism was a successful business model, they would rush to support it. And the more places that we had supporting it, the more competition, and the more that they would try to make us feel comfortable in order for us to continue to go there. And that's the power of business. The only way that this could be done is if we are an organized community and if we have resources. So let's support that. So I think that these are all the comments. If you guys have any other comments, please let me know. If not, I'm going to log out. And at 4 p.m., I'm going to have another live stream session, but it's going to be in Spanish. Links are going to be in the description if you guys want to reach out and let me know if you guys have any ideas or whatever. I'll be more than glad to listen to them and to see what we can do from this point on. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'll keep you guys up to date. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing live streams or whatever, but I am sure that until YouTube decides to eliminate this channel as well, I'm going to be using it. So if you guys want to subscribe and to be informed of what's going on, please consider doing so. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Para todos los que están viendo esta transmisión en vivo en español, les comunico que a las 4 p.m. voy a comenzar una segunda transmisión donde estaré contestando sus preguntas en español. Si tienen alguna duda o alguna pregunta, déjenlo en los comentarios de este video o de otros videos para poder resolverlos. Before we go, Bjorn says, on a funny note, one remark. Did you notice that all this trouble started when you cut your hair? All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.